Good evening, families. My name is Erin Baptiste. I am the Special Education Director in the Department of Exceptional Education under the Division of Student Services. And we are super duper happy to have you all here this evening for our third Parent Education Empowerment Resources and Support session. Just to give you all a little history, if you have not joined us for our previous sessions, these peer sessions, as we coin them, are initiatives designed to educate you all as our families, promote engagement, and increase parental access to meaningful community resources. Our DeKalb County School District parent educators and staff have utilized input from you all, parent feedback, to plan and host these virtual sessions that will cover a multitude of topics and a range of speakers. And we're excited to share that tonight's session is about Section 504, Hospital Homebound, and Child Fine. And just to give you all a little fast forward, our next session is on technical colleges and student support services, which will be held on February 27th. I am excited to say and introduce the head of our peers team, Ms. Lisa Lake. We also have our parent transition liaisons and speakers for this session from Section 504 and Hospital Homebound. The team is our senior coordinator, Dr. Watina April. We have some supporting coordinators, Dr. Keandra Tyus, Ms. Allison Marks, and Ms. Jessica Cooper, as well as Ms. Shantiri McCrary. So without further ado, I do want to allow our Chief of Student Services to provide some opening remarks, and then we will be happy to turn it over to our speakers to get tonight's session started.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Dr. Brad Baptiste. Good evening, everybody. My name is Norman Sauce. I very proudly serve DeKalb County School District as Chief of Student Services. And in our school district, the Division of Student Services includes 4 departments. That's our Gifted Education Department, our Pre-K and Early Learning Department, our English Learners Department, and of course, our Exceptional Education Department. And within our Exceptional Education Department, we have several really critical offices and teams. And this evening, we're going to hear from one of those offices, and that is our Section 504 Hospital Homebound office. Very, very pleased and proud of our Section 504 and Hospital Homebound team, not only for the content that they're going to share this evening, but for extraordinary work that they do every single day of the week, supporting more than 5,000 students that are receiving Section 504 and or Hospital Homebound services alone in our district from this small but mighty team. I also hope parents, guardians, stakeholders that you recognize that this peers series that we're offering is our attempts to increase and expand our outreach and our connection to you all as parents of children with exceptional needs. We recognize that our scholars have very unique and divergent needs, and we want to build the bridges of engagement and understanding with you all, partnership with you all, so that we can best provide for those needs in the ways that their Section 504 plans and or their IEPs call for, so that they can be successful in our schools and beyond the walls of our schools. And that begins with strong partnership with our parents and guardians, of course, caretakers. And we hope that you recognize that these series that we're offering this year is our attempt to build that bridge. So sit back, tune in. You're in store for some great content this evening. Present your questions in the chat. Our team will do our best to answer them. And before I step to the left here, stage left, I also want to, of course, thank and acknowledge Ms. Lisa Lake and our parent engagement team with our Exceptional Education Department for her extraordinary leadership to make these sessions a reality, which tonight will be just as good as all the others and even better. So thank you, Ms. Lake. Thank you, our Section 504 team, and Dr. Brad Baptiste, likewise. Thanks for letting me bring a few greetings.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sauce. Again, my name is Lisa Lake. I am the Parent Transition Liaison, and I'm so excited to have you guys here tonight. Just a few things to remember. You will not be able to unmute yourself, so we are asking if you have questions throughout the session, please put them in that Q&A button. And at 7 o'clock, we are going to start answering the parent questions that are in that Q&A section. And also there will be a survey at the end that we'll be asking for you to do that will be placed into the chat. So without any further ado, I will turn it over to the Section 504 team.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lake. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you, DeKalb families. My name is Dr. April. Again, I am a senior coordinator over Section 504 in Hospital Homebound. We're just really excited that you are joining us this evening. I do want to respect your time, so we're going to go ahead and get started. The purpose of this presentation is to equip DeKalb County School District parents with the knowledge and skills to navigate the Section 504 process and the Hospital Homebound program. Our objectives, we will discuss the purpose of Section 504. We will explain the process in the DeKalb County School District. We will differentiate between a Section 504 accommodation plan and an individualized education program. We will summarize student and parent rights under Section 504. We will take time to talk about some concerns and misconceptions regarding Section 504, explain disciplinary protections that are afforded to our students with disabilities. We will discuss the Hospital Homebound program and how it supports our students with medical or psychiatric conditions that prevent regular school attendance. And then we will discuss the rights of our students with 504 protections as they transition from high school to post-secondary education and or the workforce. So what is Section 504? Well, Section 504 is a federal civil rights law that protects our students with disabilities from disability-based discrimination. It really focuses on ensuring that our students can access and participate and benefit in their educational programming. When we speak of access and equity, what we want to look or pay attention to the graphic on the right. When we speak of equality, we're talking about what all students receive to access education. All students have a teacher. All students have a schedule. But when we're looking at equity, we're talking about what are the individualized supports that students need to be successful. Again, equality, what we do for all students, and equity, what does the individual's child need so that they can be successful? And so when we're talking about a 504 student's ability to access, we mean they should be able to access our curriculum. They should be able to equitably access classroom instruction, our school assessments, even extracurricular activities. All of our students with disabilities have the right to participate in our after-school extended day program with the appropriate supports, field trips, our technology, school facilities, and even our transportation program. Now, under Section 504, there is a specific definition for disability that's really different from our students who receive special education. The eligibility criteria simply says that a student has to have a mental or physical impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. And when we talk about substantial limitation, we mean if we compare a student with a disability to their same age, non-disabled peer, how are they able to perform any of these major life activities? And major life activities are those things that we do from day to day, such as walking and breathing, learning, eating, lifting, standing, reaching. Section 504 supports students who are limited in all of these life activities and those who have limitations with their various bodily functions and their body systems. So our 504 process, it begins with a referral. And we call this child find because it is the responsibility of our schools to actively seek out students who may have suspected or known disabilities and may be in need of Section 504 supports or services. But the referral can start with anyone. A parent can refer a student for a 504 to see if they are considered as disabled under that definition that I just spoke about. There are several reasons why we refer students for 504, and this is not an exhaustive list. We refer students for acute, chronic, intermittent, or terminal health conditions. If our students have persistent or ongoing emotional or mental health challenges with or without hospitalizations, for students who have persistent academic or behavioral challenges, students who are multiple levels behind their peers, students with physical disability, accessibility needs, we refer those students, students who lack response to intervention. If a teacher is intervening and trying to provide supports to a student and they're not responding, then sometimes we will refer for 504 to see if there's an additional level of support. And of course, anytime you as a parent or a healthcare provider raises a concern to school personnel that a student may have a disability, that is the perfect reason to refer a student for a 504. Now, there are some common misconceptions or some misunderstandings about Section 504, and I just believe this is an appropriate time to address some of them, just for your knowledge, because again, we want our parents to be informed advocates for their children. So the first one, medical documentation is required to schedule a 504 eligibility meeting. That is false. While we would love for you all to provide us with all of the medical documentation that you have, it is not required to schedule the meeting, but we do like to have it so we can appropriately support your student and ensure that your student is safe while they are on DeKalb County school grounds. Another false misconception is that high-performing students should not be referred for Section 504 protections and or accommodations. That's simply not true. If we go back to the definition of disability, again, we focus on if that child has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. And sometimes schools look at students' performance and achievement, but the Office of Civil Rights has really told us that we need to also consider the time and the effort that some of our high-performance students utilize to maintain such high grades. If the school receives a legitimate diagnosis from a licensed physician or psychiatrist, the student is guaranteed a 504 plan. There are never any guarantees, but the school team will consider the diagnosis in a team meeting and then go forward to see if the student is eligible. If a student is found ineligible for special education, then the school must implement a 504 plan. Again, there are no guarantees, but we will consider and we will meet as a team to determine if there are additional supports that fall under Section 504. Another misconception, Section 504 accommodations only apply during the school day. Our students with 504 protections, they also receive supports in extracurricular activities when they are on field trips. It lasts throughout the school day and after school. A student's impairment must impact learning to qualify. This is a very big misconception and understanding. While the student's impairment has to have educational impact, it does not have to just impact learning. It can impact any of the major life activities that we discussed earlier. And the last one, a parent can reject an IEP and request the same supports under a 504 plan. An IEP and a 504, they are totally different. The requirements are different. The mandates are different. So while an IEP requires students to have specially designed instruction, the 504 only ensures that your child can access the school environment, access the classroom, and all of those other activities and programs that I listed earlier. So this is a perfect time to really talk about the difference between an IEP versus a 504 plan. So take a look at the graphic on the left of your screen. And if you see the dark gray circle, it represents all of our students in the district. But if you look at the dark blue, it will show that a portion of all of our students have impairments. They may be physical, they may be mental, they may be emotional, they may be psychiatric, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they qualify for 504. So if you look at the light gray, that's a segment of students with impairments where those impairments are substantially limited, and those students need additional supports to access their education. And then yet there's a smaller group, and those are our students who receive special education because their disability is of a greater level, the need is greater, and they receive that specially designed instruction. Now, while both our 504 and our IEPs, they both support our students and their individualized needs. But in DeKalb County, Section 504 supports general education students with disabilities, students with diabetes, asthma, severe allergies, migraines, Crohn's disease, many of the different disabilities or impairments. But for our students who receive special education services, their services are supported with the IEP. It's documented in the IEP, so they're really different. One is governed by IDEA, that's special education law, and then one is governed by Section 504. IDEA is a federally funded program, while Section 504 is unfunded. So that's why we are not able to provide so many various levels of support. And Section 504 speaks about reasonable accommodations because it is an unfunded mandate. For students who receive special education, they may receive it for one of 13 disability categories. But for 504, there are no categories. It is a very, very, very broad definition. Now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Allison Marks.
Thank you, Dr. April. So students under Section 504 are protected in regulation to be provided what we call FAPE, free appropriate public education. That means that students that are found eligible under those protections will receive this support at no cost, and it will be an accommodation, a plan of support that will be designed to individually meet the student's need, and it will ensure access to all of the educational programming and participation that the student will experience at school or in school involved, and it will be provided in the least restrictive environment, the general education setting. There are procedural safeguards that are appointed to students under 504. These are legal rights that are designed to protect you and your child while you are under or going through the Section 504 process. Those safeguards include your parental rights to participate in all of the decision-making process regarding the 504 protections. You will also have access to educational records. You will have consent, have to give consent before conducting evaluation. That means that you will be contacted before any evaluation is conducted on your student. You will have the right to challenge school decisions through mediation, impartial hearings, or complaints to Office of Civil Rights. Those are your rights. under 504. You also have the right to the presence of a knowledgeable team that will review multiple sources of information to support decisions. And so as you are participating in that process, these rights, your rights and responsibilities will be shared with you as you are going through the process under 504. Here's just a general overview for you to see as it relates to the process in our district. It starts, as Dr. April already referred to, discussed as a referral. So anyone under Child Find can refer that student to that 504, right? And this process typically begins in MTSS, but anyone can make that referral. And then once that student has been referred, we go to the eligibility portion of the process, and we will evaluate at that time multiple sources of information. We look at by that knowledgeable team that's a part of that meeting to make that determination. When and if eligibility is determined, then you, as the parent, are there to consent to that, and we will make that determination. If necessary, individualized accommodation plans to include, if necessary, a behavior accommodation plan as well will be created, right, that will support the substantial limitations that we've identified that need support for that particular student. Then thereafter, at least once a year, once a calendar year, your student will receive a 504 review. And that gives us an opportunity to look at the student to make sure that we have the most proficient accommodations in place of support for the student. And then finally, a reevaluation is a more intense, deeper dive of reevaluation that occurs every 3 years to update records and such. Question, can my child's Section 504 accommodation plan be updated this school year if it needs a change? And the answer to that is yes. Even after your student has received their yearly review, if there is need for a change, adjustment, an added accommodation, something removed, anything needed to be changed, you can request through your school-based 504 chair to have a review meeting, and we will look with that knowledgeable team again to make decisions concerning adjusting the student's plan. Under Section 504, there are disciplinary protections that students with disabilities are covered by. Who is eligible for those protections? Well, students with 504 plans, under 504 protections, whether they have a plan or not, and then students with an IEP are automatically covered under those disciplinary protections. There are sometimes students without an IEP or a 504 plan that may also be protected if, in fact, the school has had knowledge of a possible disability prior to an incident, or if a parent or guardian has made request of an evaluation or even had a PCE signed. If it's on file protecting that student, then they are qualified. They qualify under that disciplinary protection as well. Also, if a staff member has expressed concern about a student to administrators, some type of authority figure, then those students are protected under those disciplinary rights as well. The only exceptions here are parents, when parents may refuse a 504 or an IEP evaluation or to refuse that service, then that student does not have that disciplinary protection extended. Let's look at those disciplinary protections for these students. Under the regulation, a school administrator has up to 10 days to suspend a student with a disability, regardless of the misconduct or the behavior. They can receive consequence up to 10 days. After 10 days, then they must, if they want to suspend the student, then they must have what we call a manifestation determination review. Okay, that's when that disciplinary protection takes place. After that 10th day, then we have to hold a manifestation review. What is an exclusionary discipline? That is any removal from the classroom due to behavior misconduct. Again, that's suspension in school or out. That's an early dismissal. That's a timeout. That's an opportunity room. That's a being sent home, early. Anytime a student is separated from instruction because of behavior, it is continued to be it is considered an exclusionary discipline and must be counted. Okay. Once again, that number has reached 10 on the 11th. Anytime thereafter, then a manifestation determination review, which is an extensive 504 reeval. That meeting then will determine if the behavior in question is directly related to the student's disability or the school's failure to implement the student's 504 plan or protections of support that we've identified were needed. Here's just a graph to give you an idea of the number of students that we are supporting in DeKalb County schools. Currently, we have approximately 5,800 students district-wide. You can see, according to the graph, that most of our students being served under 504 protections are in high schools, followed fairly equally by middle schools and Horizon. But in just a large number of students that we are serving, and it is our pleasure if you have a student with any of those concerns, mental, physical, psychological concern of impairment that could qualify and need equity of access of support under 504 protections, we encourage you to seek them. And now we will turn it over to Dr. Keandra Tyus.
Thank you, Dr. Marks, and good evening, everyone. I am thrilled and excited for this opportunity to just share information with you all about our district's hospital homebound program. This program is designed to help students remain current with school assignments if they'll be absent from school for medical or psychiatric reasons for a minimum of 10 consecutive days or intermittent days of school. The purpose of hospital homebound, and you'll also hear us refer to it as HHB, but the purpose of hospital homebound is to provide continuity of educational services between the classroom, the school, and the home, in the hospital, as you and your family focus on the health and wellness of your student. It's also intended to ensure students have access to free, appropriate public education despite the circumstances. Provides an equal opportunity for your child to participate and benefit from educational programming. And it also provides provisions for attendance while you and your student are focusing on your student's health. There are eligibility requirements for hospital homebound, and this slide lists majority of our eligibility requirements, but I do want to go through them with you all. First and foremost, our students eligible for hospital homebound must be enrolled in DeKalb County School District. They must have a medical or psychiatric condition that is documented by a licensed physician or a psychiatrist that's currently treating the student, and this medical professional must be licensed in the state of Georgia. Students being supported through hospital homebound must have a 504 plan or an IEP, and they must be anticipated to miss a minimum of 10 days throughout the school year, whether it's consecutively or intermittently, just due to the nature of the illness that they're requiring hospital homebound for. This condition must not be contagious or infectious, and the student must be well enough to benefit from the services. And there are times when we do have students that are battling chronic illnesses, and they may not be well enough to really tend to or focus on school. And so we do ask those questions, to the physicians and to the team when determining eligibility for HHB. There are two types of hospital homebound services provided to our students, and it really just depends on the nature of the illness and what it is that the doctors are recommending during treatment. Full-time students are full-time hospital homebound is provided to students that are missing 10 or more consecutive days from school with issues related to a medical or psychiatric condition. And just to give you an example, we provide this support for students that may be recovering from surgery or undergoing cancer treatments, and also for students that are at some point recovering postpartum from pregnancy. And what you just want to think about is for full-time, these are students that are dealing with illnesses that are preventing them from attending school in a consecutive block. Intermittent support is also an option for hospital homebound students, and this support is provided when we have students that are missing 10 or more non-consecutive days. And due to the nature of their medical impairment, it may cause them to miss school intermittently. These students are allowed to come to school, but we know and the doctors recommend that due to the nature of their illness or their disability that they may miss school. And we like to just use an example of a student that may have sickle cell disease. These students, when they are well, they're able to come to school, participate in district activities. But when they're in crisis or when they're not feeling well or when they are hospitalized, we do have support in place, a certified educator that can liaise between the hospital, the home, and that family. This slide just provides you perspective with some of the most common conditions that qualify students for hospital homebound in our district. These are just some of the elements that we have provided support for our students. As I previously mentioned, sickle cell disease, mental health conditions requiring hospitalization, organ failure, students with various forms of cancer, students with orthopedic impairments. And so what we just try to do is consider the needs of our students and ensure that they are still connected to our school community while they are also focusing on their health and recovery. Now, as a parent, when we talk about hospital homebound, you'll find when you sit in that hospital homebound meeting, it is a team effort from the school-based team, the student, and we also need your support as parents to ensure that it actually does become a beneficial program for your student. We do ask parents to provide medical updated documentation for our students receiving hospital homebound support. And this is to ensure that we are in alignment with what the physician's recommendations are, and we are providing the most appropriate support for your student. We ask that when you do have a hospital homebound teacher in your home, that you provide a clean, quiet area that is designated for instruction for your student when we have a teacher providing that one-on-one instruction. Provide ongoing encouragement. We participated in a consortium at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta on Friday, and one piece that really resonated with me is that encouragement and just being able to provide our kiddos with a sense of normalcy, right? It helps with mortality rates and it helps keep our students going and fighting. So we want you as parents to also provide that positive perspective for your students, and we will ensure that our teachers and our staff do the same. Communicate any medical related absences with your school team, with your hospital homebound teacher, so everyone's up to date and we understand exactly where you are, where your students stand, and we have the most recent medical information available for your student. And just help your students remain connected to the school environment. That hospital homebound teacher is there as a representation of DeKalb County School District, but you are always encouraged to communicate with your students' teachers of record. Encourage your students to continue to engage with their friends and their peers so they again have that sense of normalcy and distraction when they're facing these chronic illnesses. We also ask that you ensure during your hospital homebound sessions for our parents that have been approved for hospital homebound sessions, we ask that you all ensure that there is an adult 21 or older that participates in these sessions with your student and the hospital homebound teacher. That's a part of our approval process, and you are allowed to designate an alternate adult designee, and we discussed that in the meeting But when we talk about what our parents can do to ensure that our students are connected and have successful, beneficial sessions with their teachers, that is a key piece to ensure that there is an adult present during those sessions as well. I'm going to transition the topic, if you go back to the previous slide, to discuss transitioning our hospital and our hospital homebound students and our 504 students from from high school to some post-secondary options. What we want you all to know as parents when you are transitioning from high school into the workforce, into college, for your students that have 504 plans in place, we want you all to know that there are protections still for individuals with disabilities. The Americans with Disabilities Act protects employees with disabilities from discrimination in hiring, job assignments, and workplace policies. And when you're looking at the transition to college for students that have 504 plans, we ask that you prepare your students in advance for that transition, prepare them for advocacy so they are able to in turn take those 504 accommodations to the college's office for students with disabilities or disabilities protections so they can then determine appropriate levels of support for your students. The change when it comes to parent support versus student support when we are going from high school to college is, of course, that your students will have to advocate for themselves, be familiar with their supports, be comfortable having those conversations with the college personnel, and that they are able to request those accommodations. We know at the high school K through 12 level that the parents are primarily advocating for the students. So when we ask for recommendations for you all, it's just to prepare those students early. You can start by allowing them to attend those 504 meetings at the high school level so they can be prepared to advocate for themselves post-secondary. When we're talking about the workforce, of course, there are opportunities for our students to be provided with job training. We just, again, want them to know that if there are areas in which they need to express and advocate for themselves, their needs or any disability related to any disabilities, that they always can reach out to their employee relations department in their designated companies. Can we go back one slide? Thank you. Thank you. So when we also talk about additional transitioning from the workforce, we did want to point out as a resource for you all, WorkSource DeKalb, which is a local organization that does provide job coaching and vocational rehabilitation for our students and for any member of the DeKalb County community. But really and truly, what we would like to resonate with you all is if your student is being supported by a 504 plan and they have a disability that is substantially limiting them in any way, that the support doesn't have to necessarily end as they transition into college or into the workforce. Just be prepared to provide documentation and prepare your students to advocate for themselves and their needs. This is our department's contact information. We, again, are DeKalb County School District Section 504 ADA and Hospital Homebound Department. And we just want you all to know that we appreciate you all as our DeKalb County School District parents and family. You are always welcome to reach out to our office and contact us if you need any support or if you have questions regarding services and support for your students. We're always here and willing to help.
All right. So now we will review our questions that's in the chat, and we will try to answer as many as possible. Ms. Cooper. We will allow you to read the questions aloud.
There we go. My question is about after school teaching. My question is about after school teaching if a child needs it, but the parents are not able to pay for aftercare because of what the students cannot be able to say. What should the parents do in this particular situation?
Please read that question one more time to make sure it's clear to us.
Okay, my question is about after school teaching, and I'm assuming they're referring to after school care, but they're unable to pay for aftercare. What should the parents do in this situation?
Where our schools have many, many resources that's really outside of our 504. So I would definitely tell you to speak with your principal, your assistant principal. Our schools are supported by social workers. They have access to resources as well as our counseling department.
The next question is, how much notice should parents receive before a 504 annual review meeting?
Very good question. We do encourage for our chairs to at least provide 3 to 5 days minimally because we want our parents to be able to participate, and many times they need to change their schedules to participate.
All right, what does the 504 evaluation entail? Is it a psychological test or a battery of tests to determine the disability? For example, reading and concentration disability?
Wonderful question. So for Section 504, the evaluation is just an exhaustive review of information. So for the purposes of determining disability or level of need, we may review attendance data, behavior data. If a parent brings in a private psychological, any medical documentation, parent input, teacher input, we review a lot of sources of information. It's not a formal evaluation as would entail if we were maybe testing a student under special education.
The next question is, my child will be starting middle school next school year. She already has a 504 plan. How can I ensure she will be accommodated in the transition to middle school?
Wonderful. So our 504 plans, they travel with the student. So in our system, as soon as your student transitions to middle school, that student still has a 504 plan. The beginning of the year before classes begin, those teachers on your student's schedule will have access to the student's 504 plan, so they will know what supports should be implemented on day one. And as he or she transitions into middle school, if you would like to hold a review, all you have to do is reach out to that school's 504 chairperson, and then they will schedule a review early so you can really discuss how your student is doing with that transition and make any appropriate adjustments.
Awesome. The next question is, do we as parents tell the school about the hospital homebound program is something that we are interested in? How do we request it?
Wonderful question. If your student is a general education student, then of course you would contact the 504 chair. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Titus because this is her expertise with hospital homebound. So she can really talk about the referral process if you are interested in the hospital homebound program and what that will look like.
Yes, thank you, Dr. April. Absolutely. So if you are interested in the hospital homebound services, then yes, we have a hospital homebound designee in every school building. If your student is being supported through a 504 plan, then your school's 504 chairperson would be the individual that you would contact and request that hospital homebound application. If your student is being supported through an IEP, then you would contact your school's LTSE, which is the lead teacher of special education. You also may contact your school counselors as well. And they really typically know where to get that info, where to direct you to get that information. Once you've received that application, it'll be a two-part application. One area is designated for the parent to consent. It also give us consent to collaborate with your child's provider. And then the other piece is the recommendation form for your child's provider. And we would need both of those pieces of the parts of your application back to your school. And once you've returned the completed application back to the school, they will follow up to schedule a meeting to review that application and to determine hospital homebound eligibility.
And the next question is aligned with the previous question. If a student is in a mental hospital or residential facility, do we have to withdraw the students from school?
You do not have to withdraw the student from the school. Now, it does depend, and if this is specific, you can certainly reach out to us and we can talk about your child's specific situation. But typically, we do provide this support to ensure that your student is still connected to DeKalb County School District while receiving the residential treatment. There are unique cases, and again, you are more than welcome to reach out to our office if there's a unique situation with your student.
The next question is, can an MDR be appealed?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. Yes, an MDR, remember we talked about those rights and responsibilities, those protections under 504. So yes, for students under 504 protections, a parent does have a right to appeal a decision, and they'd have to go through that process if they were not satisfied.
Another question just wanted the reiteration of how often should a 504 plan be updated?
So according to our DSD, our process in our district, we have a yearly review, at least one calendar year. Once a calendar year, it is reviewed. And as we also said, if that needed to be done more often, if a change needed PBA, that can be also done. Just make that request with that school 504 chair, and they can schedule another meeting if needed.
Another question is, good evening, thank you for the session. I understand that anyone can make a referral. Do we, as the parent, contact this office directly or go through the school? If the school is if it is the school, who is the contact person essentially for making a referral for Section 504?
Yes, you would go directly to the school to make a referral. You can actually request information from your school counselor, or you can just ask, who is the 504 chairperson for my school? They will give you that name, and you can reach out directly, and they will provide guidance.
Okay, awesome. Another question is, do 504 plans transfer from a school that is out of state?
Yes, our process. So what we will ask you to do is to provide a copy of the current 504, provide it to your school's 504 chairperson. They will review the plan and provide a copy to the classroom teachers so they can begin to implement those accommodations. And typically within about 10 days, they will reach out to schedule a review, and then they will review each accommodation, talk with the classroom teachers, and then we'll update the plan using DeKalb County's 504 report.
Okay. Another question is, do children with IEPs also qualify for 504 plans?
This is such a wonderful question. And so to understand Section 504, again, Section 504 is a federal mandate. and it protects all children who have disabilities from disability-based discrimination. And so under this mandate, we have students who qualify for an IEP, those who qualify for a 504 plan. When our general ed students are being supported, we document how we're going to support those students on a 504 plan. If a student moves through the special ed evaluation process and they are eligible, we now document all of those supports and needs under the IEP or on the IEP plan. So we do not have a 504 plan and an IEP because those are two separate committees. We make sure that all things that that student requires once they are eligible for special ed is documented in the IEP. That is a phenomenal question that we hear a lot.
All right, one more question. Surprisingly to me, I have found that my middle school student focuses on and gets her homework done faster when she plays with a fidget spinner or slime. Is this something I can request a 504 if I would like for her to have access to it in the classroom?
So when we are creating accommodations, the accommodations that the team will put in the plan are all of the supports that a child requires to access. It is not a requirement for us to put all supports in the plan, but what are those things that's needed for that child to be able to be in that classroom to receive instruction? You may speak with your individual classroom teachers and ask if this is an appropriate support as long as it's not distracting other students. But as far as 504 accommodations, you can bring anything to the table and the team will make the decision based on the data and the information that's brought to the table. Very good question.
All right, another question. What if my child's condition worsens or changes in the middle of the year? Am I able to request another meeting to update their 504?
Yes, you are. You can request a review at any time.
I believe that does it for our questions.
I see a question that says, does the program include a student with type 1 diabetes? And type 1 diabetes, absolutely. That is one of our more common impairments. So we do provide supports. We want to make sure that the school, all teachers, all personnel, support personnel are aware of how to support that student. For our 504 meetings, there always has to be a knowledgeable team. And that means the people who are most knowledgeable of the student, who are most knowledgeable of the condition and any placement decisions for that student. So with our students who have type 1 diabetes, we ensure that we have a nurse involved in those meetings to help us develop that plan. And I see a question that says, what benefit do we get from the 504 plan? And as we discussed earlier, the 504 provides many protections for our students. But again, the mandate for our district is that our students, there will be no discrimination based on disability. So for a student who may have, let's say, narcolepsy, and they have real challenges waking up in the morning, that 504 plan may protect that attendance in the morning where we're marking them tardy. And they may put a plan of support to change the schedule to make sure the child may not be missing, core classes or have another opportunity during the day to receive missed instruction. There are a lot of different protections, including those disciplinary protections that Dr. Marks spoke about earlier. So it really is an excellent plan if your child requires the support to access their education. Are there any more questions?
It looks like more questions are coming.
Okay.
Um,
And
let's see.
Can our translator translate the ones that are?
So there are two. There are two in Spanish. One says, I think they're asking what a student in high school receives if they have a 504 plan. Do they still are they still getting a regular diploma or a certificate? Is there something that goes with that if they have a 504 plan?
Excellent, excellent. So our students with Section 504 plans are general education students. They receive whatever diploma track that they're on. It does not cause any type of difference at all. They are general ed. It is just a plan that ensures that wherever your child has an impairment or disability, that we are leveling the playing field so they have an equal opportunity to be successful. One thing a 504 does not do, it does not provide unfair advantage. It literally just levels the playing field so that they can access their education and be successful.
And there is a question up at the top that's talking about the guarantee statements. Can they be repeated? And if a child has a diagnosis, are you saying if there's a child with a diagnosis, there is no guarantee of a plan?
Correct. There is no guarantee just because a child has a diagnosis. It will be a committee decision. They will review multiple sources of information to determine if that impairment is substantially limiting that child in whatever major life activity. If there is a substantial limitation, then of course that team may find that child eligible, and then they will determine not only is the child eligible, now do we need to now provide additional supports for that child?
Let's see.
I have another question. My child has a 504, has had a 504 since elementary school, but I was unaware of the 3-year deeper review. Who conducts that, and what does that entail?
So the reevaluation every 3 years. So in our district, we review the plan annually. And in many cases, our 504 chairs are reviewing updated information each year. But really, the reg says that the 504 has to be reviewed periodically. That's the word they say, periodically. We don't have a certain timeline, but we want our 504 chairs, when we say reevaluate, we want updated medical information or updated information that can now inform a update to that plan if necessary. Those plans really don't typically stay the same year after year. Something changes. Sometimes we decrease the level of support for students because we really want them to be able to own their education when possible. If they don't need the support, we remove it or we add additional levels of support. It really just depends.
Another question is, I arrived late. I'm sorry. Was the question posed regarding supporting my senior in college testing, specifically SAT or ACT, and how to ensure that's applied at testing?
So if your student has a current 504 plan and they receive testing accommodations, and testing accommodations, let me just kind of touch on that. The only time we provide testing accommodations for students is when that student's impairment or disability impacts their ability to demonstrate what they know on an assessment in an allotted time. And so usually we have data that says, you know what, this child always needs extended time in this math class. They can't finish in the allotted time. Maybe they have ADHD and the team says, you know what, we need to give this student time and a half. If it's documented in their 504 plan, then they are eligible for it for when they sit for the SAT, the PSAT, but you have to go through College Board, and your high school 504 chair can provide support for that. But that's an online process, and they will ask for documentation and they will reach out and let you know if your child is approved or not. So yes, they do qualify, but you have to go through that process early much earlier than that test. So if you have a test within 30 days, a lot of times it may take a minute for College Board to go through the applications and then send you that letter. So the earlier, the better. So I will always tell you, contact your 504 chair and just say, hey, I need some assistance with ensuring my child receives the accommodations that's in the 504 plan.
The next question is, I'm glad it was mentioned that a student can be high performing with a 504 plan. However, because my student has not failed, I have been told a 504 plan is not required. What course of action can be taken?
I would definitely tell you to go back to the table again, make another referral if you feel like your child really needs additional supports, even though they're high achieving. And then just go ahead and schedule that meeting if you would like district support. That's why we provided our contact information. You can kind of call us personally and talk about that, and we can assist with ensuring that your child has that opportunity to have that meeting so the team can determine if they qualify for supports or not. We're always here to support.
Another question, it's a lengthy one. I'm going to try to summarize. Can we discuss school choice and the lottery selection process for a child with a 504? Does the 504 status assist with the selection, or would they have to wait to be selected like other students?
So with our school choice, we do have a Senate Bill 47 that allows our 504 students to participate in this school choice lottery. And so every school, based on the number of open seats they have, every school that has open seats, our students with 504 or students with an IEP can participate that if they're selected in the lottery. So there are seats that's allotted for students with disabilities because we want to be equitable. We want to make sure that our non-disabled peers, they have access to school choice, and so do our students with disabilities with 504 plans and IEP. So that we do have allotted seats that allow our students to be able to participate. Yes.
And then the second fold to that question is, how do you apply for the student scholarship if you would like for your student to attend a school outside of their home school or county?
So it's different parts to Senate Bill 47. One part, your child is able to attend a private school and receive assistance with tuition if they qualify under one of the 21 impairments that's listed. And you can go to the Georgia DOE and just type in Georgia Special Needs Scholarship, Senate 47. Students with 504 plans can also, under that bill, attend schools in different districts, but you have to reach out directly to that district. They have to have space, and they have the opportunity to accept or deny the request for attending their school district.
Another question, could someone please describe available DCSD transportation accommodations, for example, a student with anxiety? So the process for, I'm assuming, transportation accommodation.
So Section 504 students, they can receive special transportation if the student's impairment or disability impacts their ability to ride the regular school bus safely. That is the standard. We educate children in the least restrictive environment, and we transport children in the least restrictive environment as well. So again, anytime we're talking about transportation accommodations or the need, that decision is also made within the confines of an official 504 plan with a 504 meeting with a knowledgeable team present to determine the needs of the student and can we provide supports to that student on the general ed bus.
I see once again the question of, can a student have an IEP and a 504? That was a question that was asked quite a few times. Mhm. Mhm.
I do see a question about paraprofessionals being requested. Can the support of a paraprofessional be requested through a 504 plan?
So when it comes to personnel, whatever a student requires as far as personnel, that's the discussion that begins at the schoolhouse. The Section 504 office, we don't determine outside of a meeting what a child would need in a building, what a child would need in a classroom, what a child would need on a bus. That comes within that team meeting. So in your 504 meeting, they will review data to see if that child requires an adult to transition throughout the building, or an adult to do a check-in throughout the day, or whatever level of support. So what I would always say is we have to go back to the 504 team, review the data, and then they can discuss what is needed. But typically personnel, that is something that should be included with a discussion with the administration in that 504 meeting.
Any additional questions? Hmm. Is there any further questions? Do you guys see any additional ones that we can answer? There are a couple of IEP questions. Let's see. 514, do you see any other ones that you feel are relevant?
We're reviewing.
Okay.
It was a lot of questions about process for
It is a
IEP.
lot of questions in here, yeah. And if you have not had an opportunity, I did put a link to our survey in the chat. So if your question has already been answered, we would love for you to fill out our survey and give us some feedback about this session. So that link is in the chat. I will share it again also.
And one more question, what to do if my child's teachers are not following her 504 accommodation?
It's important to ask for not an annual, but ask for a review. You ask for a review meeting, and then you can document your concerns and discuss it openly in that team meeting. If you feel like you have exhausted everything at the school level, then you can definitely contact our office and we will assist you further.
All right, any additional questions? Hmm, 514, do y'all see any additional ones?
No.
Yes, we
So-
did ask the ones that the translator put in, didn't we?
Oh,
I did ask several of them.
Okay.
I did ask several of them, and I think there is one more that was in Spanish, and it is the parent is asking if the child has panic attacks. Is this something? If the child is having panic attacks and it is affecting her absences from school, is this something that would be relevant to ask to request a 504?
Certainly that would be something that could be sent as a referral that concern lifted up, and they would go through that eligibility process that we discussed, right? We would use all of that information. The family would share that information, and we would, with that knowledgeable team, make a determination of eligibility. Absolutely.
Okay, so I think, yeah, some of the questions are just like, I'm not sure, would this qualify? Would this qualify? Those are, I've seen several of those questions, just unsure, unsure, unsure. And
Sure.
should they still ask, or should they still try to make a referral?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that eligibility process is in place to make that decision, right? Based on us reviewing the documents and utilizing, right, and looking for those limitations, we will make a determination for eligibility. So just because, the student is referred, they may not be found eligible, but it doesn't hurt, to go through that part of the process. It would be helpful.
Awesome. All right. Well, if we do not have any further questions, again, please fill out the survey. There were a few questions about the recording and whether these sessions are going to be recorded. So yes, the answer is yes. This session is being recorded, and so have all the peer sessions from October, November, and December. They have also all been recorded, and they will be uploaded to the district YouTube channel to be able to be accessed. I will be sending out that link in order to everyone who registered. So if you registered for any of the peer sessions that we've had and this one tonight, I will be emailing out that link when it is available. It is not available immediately. So when it becomes available for you to access the recording, I will send out an email to let you know how to access it. And I did put the Office of Section 504 Hospital Homebound and ADA Compliance's phone number. So that will also be in a follow-up email. And I will be sending this survey again in an email as well after this session. So we do hope that you will join us again next month. Our next parent education, empowerment, resources, and support virtual session is going to be February 27th. And it will be on technical colleges and student support services. Same time, 6 p.m. We will have Technical Colleges of Georgia here to talk all about that process of getting services for your student in college and some of the benefits of attending a technical college. And they'll have a lot of information to share about the technical colleges that are in the state. So we do hope that you will join us there. And thank you to the Section 504 and Hospital Homebound team for joining us tonight. And thank you all for attending. We hope to see y'all next month.